Welcome back, viewers, to the latest researches and news today. We have major confirmed developments from Ethiopia-Sudan Tigray border. First of all, we will update you about Ethiopia has officially admitted that a serious war has occurred. Ethiopian National Defense Force deployed drones against Tigray People Liberation Front forces near Shirena. Secondly, about Humera has been locked down. A strict curfew imposed. What is the Ethiopian military preparing inside that city? After that, about Ethiopia-Sudan border is fracturing. Ethiopian forces reportedly crossed 2 kilometers into Sudanese territory. Sudan is sending additional troops to the front. In last about what comes next, the situation on both the Shirena and Sudan border fronts and why the next 24 to 48 hours may determine whether this remains localized or explodes into a full regional war. Let us start with the most significant political development of the day, because its implications go beyond the battlefield. The Ethiopian government has admitted that a strong war has occurred. This is not a leak, not an opposition claim, not a resistance statement. This is the government acknowledging through official channels and statements that a serious military engagement has taken place. Why does this admission matter so much? For months, the Ethiopian government has avoided the language of war when describing its operations in Amhara. For 3 years, it called the Fano conflict a law enforcement operation. It minimized, denied, and reframed every engagement to avoid the political and diplomatic costs of admitting active warfare. Today, it admitted war. That shift in language is itself a strategic decision. The government is now framing the conflict in Shirena as a defensive response, not an offensive operation. Its version of events is that Tigray People Liberation Front forces initiated attacks against Ethiopian military positions near Shirena, and the Ethiopian National Defense Force responded. Specifically, Ethiopian military sources report that Ethiopian National Defense Force drone aircraft were deployed to attack Tigray People Liberation Front forces following the initial engagement. The drone strikes targeted military vehicles being used by Tigray forces for movement in the area. A truck carrying weapons, arms, and military equipment was also reported to have been struck. Let us analyze what this reveals. First, the confirmation of drone deployment. We have reported previously about the Ethiopian National Defense Force establishing drone operation positions near Lalibela Airport and in the Shifra area of Afar. The deployment of drones against Tigray People Liberation Front positions near Shirena confirms that this aerial capability is operational and being used in active combat, not just surveillance. Second, the framing of Tigray People Liberation Front as the initiator. The Ethiopian government's version places the blame for starting the shooting on Tigray People Liberation Front. It is important to note the Tigray People Liberation Front and the Tigray Regional Administration have stated the opposite, that the Ethiopian government launched a heavy war against Tigray. Both sides are claiming the other fired first. This is a pattern we have seen before and expected in this conflict. Third, the silence from Tigray People Liberation Front's official response to the Ethiopian National Defense Force's specific drone strike claims. At this stage, the Tigray government and Tigray People Liberation Front have not issued a detailed counter-statement responding to the specific drone strike allegations. That silence is notable. It may reflect operational security considerations. Tigray People Liberation Front does not want to confirm what was hit or how effectively. What is confirmed on both sides? Intense fighting is ongoing on two fronts, Shirena and the Ethiopia-Sudan border. That confirmation from multiple credible sources is the ground truth beneath the competing narratives about who started it. Now, to a development that demands careful analysis because of where it is happening and what it suggests about what comes next. Humera, the town in western Tigray, in the politically contested area that has been under Amhara administration since the war has been placed under a strict curfew by the Ethiopian military. Let us explain why Humera matters before we explain what the curfew means. Humera sits in the Wilkate area, the part of western Tigray that Amhara forces occupied during the 2020 war, and that the Pretoria Agreement was supposed to address through a political process of determining its status. That process never happened. Humera has remained under Amhara-aligned administration, and it was the destination of the recently announced Ethiopian Airlines scheduled flights from Gondar, a move that we analyzed previously as a political statement about control, not just a transport service. Now a military curfew. All movement of residents and vehicles has been restricted. Entry and exit routes have been sealed with checkpoints. Normal activities, including farming in the surrounding areas, have been suspended. The population of Humera is being held in place by military order. Why would the Ethiopian National Defense Force lock down Humera right now? There are two most plausible explanations. The first, the Ethiopian National Defense Force is using Humera as a staging area or operational base for its actions in western Tigray, and the curfew is designed to prevent civilians from observing, reporting on, or interfering with those operations. When a military locks down a city before or during operations, it is often because it needs freedom of movement for its own forces while denying that freedom to everyone else. The second, the Ethiopian National Defense Force is concerned about the security of Humera itself that Tigray People Liberation Front or Fano aligned forces may attempt to enter or strike the city, and the curfew is a protective measure designed to control who is inside the perimeter and prevent any hostile infiltration. Either interpretation leads to the same conclusion. Humera is now a militarized zone. The civilian population is restricted, and the military is operating there under conditions it does not want the outside world observing in real time. For the people of Humera, regardless of their political affiliation, this is what war looks like when it arrives at your front door. And now to the dimension of this conflict that has the potential to transform it from an internal Ethiopian war into a regional international confrontation. The Ethiopia-Sudan border. Sudanese sources are reporting that Ethiopian forces crossed approximately 2 kilometers into Sudanese territory during operations near the border. The reported incursion took place in the Greater Fashaga area, specifically including locations near Al-Kadima. According to these reports, Ethiopian troops were actively pursuing Tigray fighters across the borderline. Let us explain what Greater Fashaga is and why this matters. Fashaga is a border region that has been disputed between Ethiopia and Sudan for years, long before this current conflict. Ethiopian farmers from the Amhara region have traditionally cultivated land in Fashaga that Sudan considers its own territory. The two countries have clashed over this area before. It is one of the most sensitive border zones in the entire Ethiopia-Sudan relationship. If Ethiopian forces have now crossed 2 kilometers into Sudanese claimed territory while pursuing Tigray fighters, that is not just a military incident. It is a potential act of violation of Sudanese sovereignty. And Sudan is a country that has been conducting its own devastating civil war for over 2 years. Its military, which has been fighting Rapid Support Force forces and is now reportedly sending additional troops toward the Fashaga front, is not in a position to accept border violations without response. Sudanese sources also report that farming activities in parts of Greater Fashaga have been suspended because of the security situation. Ethiopian sources, for their part, allege that Sudanese troops crossed into Ethiopian territory, affecting local farmers on the Ethiopian side of the border. Both sides are making the same accusation against the other. Both sides are claiming their territory was violated. This mutual accusation pattern, familiar from the Shirena front, where both sides claimed the other fired first, is now repeating itself at the international border level. And at the international border level, the consequences of these claims are far more serious. Border violations between states can trigger formal diplomatic responses, escalation demands, and in already tense relationships, military retaliation. Sudan is now reported to be sending additional troops toward the Fashaga front. That is not a diplomatic protest. That is a military response. Meanwhile, reports indicate that Tigray forces have strengthened their positions near the border. They are not retreating from the zone of confrontation. They are consolidating. And from the Amhara area, military reinforcements have been observed, though direct Eritrean participation in the current fighting has not been independently confirmed. Let us now step back from the individual reports and try to give you the analytical picture, because the question everyone is asking is the right one. Is this a limited engagement that will be contained? Or is this the opening of a much larger regional war? Here is how to think about it. The Shirena Front, Ethiopian National Defense Force, has deployed drones, struck Tigray People Liberation Front vehicles, and the government has admitted war. Tigray People Liberation Front had the 13th Army positioned in the area. Fighting is ongoing. Neither side has announced a ceasefire. Neither side is showing signs of de-escalation. This front appears active and will likely remain so. The Ethiopia-Sudan border, both sides have crossed each other's territory. Sudan is sending more troops. Farming has been suspended in Fashaga. The border is now a confrontation zone involving three parties: Ethiopian National Defense Force, Tigray People Liberation Front, and Sudanese forces all operating in the same geography simultaneously. Humera locked down, civilian movement restricted. The military is operating inside a militarized city. The broader question is whether these multiple simultaneous confrontations remain geographically isolated or whether they begin to connect and reinforce each other. If fighting in Shirena remains limited and neither side escalates beyond the current level, the international community has a window to intervene diplomatically. But if Tigray People Liberation Front's armies on the Raya front, the 24th, 33rd, 43rd, and 44th begin moving in coordination with what is happening in the West, if Fano forces in Amhara intensify operations simultaneously, if Sudan's additional troops reach Fashaga and engage, if Eritrea makes a decision about its level of involvement, then this is no longer a border incident. It is a regional war. The next 24 to 48 hours will tell us which direction this is heading. We will be watching every development as it emerges and reporting it to you. Here is where things stand tonight, as clearly as we can state them. Ethiopia has admitted war is happening. Drones have been used. Tigray People Liberation Front and Ethiopian National Defense Force fought near Shirena. Both sides claim the other started it. Humera is under curfew. The military has sealed the city. Farming around it has stopped. At the Ethiopia-Sudan border, both sides have reportedly crossed into each other's territory. Sudan is sending more troops to the front. The Fashaga area is now an active international confrontation zone. Tigray People Liberation Front has strengthened its border positions. Tigray forces are not retreating. Military reinforcements have been observed near Amhara. The situation is moving fast. The information is incomplete and changing. We are committed to reporting what is verified and being honest about what is not. If this remains localized, there is a chance. If it expands this region, it's about to face something it has not seen since 2020. Stay connected. We will update you as information reaches us. Like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell. This situation could move at any hour.